And not only is there a common human law, but all religions have developed certain rules of conduct or disciplines or ways or paths by which they attain right standing with God or oneness with the universe or whatever the end outcome of that particular set of religion is. Let me show you how this works. Let's talk about Islam for a moment. The basic idea of Islam is the idea of submission to God. And Islam has as its foundation 5 pillars. Most of you, I think, probably would be familiar with these. First of all is a confession of faith. I bear witness that there is no God but God, or Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is God's messenger. The second is they're commanded to do certain things, to follow certain rules in order to have right standing with God. Let's use the word righteousness, all right? Second, they're commanded to perform a daily prayer or prayers. Third, they're commanded to give a special offering or alms. Fourth, they're commanded to keep the fast of Ramadan. And I have friends who very carefully keep the fast of Ramadan. And fifth, they're commanded to make a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once a year. And then inherent in this whole idea is the idea of jihad. Jihad actually is just talking about exertion. Obviously, it's been perverted by some radical extremes in Islam. But the basic idea of jihad is not a negative idea, it's a positive idea. It's the idea of jihad, really exerting oneself to here's the key, to do the right things, to keep the rules of the religion in order to have right standing with God. This is common to all religions. Buddhism, which Buddhists actually don't consider Buddhism a religion, but let's call it a faith view. That's a better word. Let's call it a faith view. It's true of all faith views. In Buddhism, for instance, you find Buddha's 4 noble truths. The first, and Russ wrote about it beautifully in the sketch we just saw, the first is the idea that life is difficult and filled with suffering. The second is the cause of suffering is craving. In other words, and it's kind of brilliant in its own way, I don't agree with it. I'm going to talk about this next week. I'm going to talk about the contribution of Christianity to the world, and I'm going to talk about how that Buddhist philosophy ultimately brings a certain fatalism and a hopelessness to a society as opposed to Christianity that offers solutions and hopes. Okay, I'm going to talk about that. But there's much to be commended if you're looking at Buddhism in terms of philosophy, in terms of interesting thought, in terms of perspective, in terms of Buddha being a great teacher. So the first pillar of Buddhism is life is difficult and filled with suffering. The second is the cause of suffering is craving. In other words, if I can say it, your problem is that you want too much. And if you could just get over wanting so much, then you wouldn't be upset when you don't get what you want because you don't want what you used to want anymore. You're wantless. It's not a technical term. And so, third, we bring it into our suffering by realizing how silly it is for us to crave things in this life. The end of suffering is called nirvana. And nirvana means that you've reached a state where you no longer want things. Good luck with that. Fourth, we can accomplish this state of satisfaction by following a certain path. The path has 8 components. Now notice, this is what you notice about all major faith views. There is a common sense of morality, what it is to live righteously. And then there's a path, there are disciplines, there are rules that are offered. And basically the religion says, if you follow these rules, you will have right standing with God. You will be declared righteous. Okay? And in Buddhism, and I'm all for the eightfold path. It's first of all the pursuit of wisdom through a right view and right intention. Secondly, it's ethical conduct through right speech, right action, right livelihood. Third, it's mental discipline through right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Amen to all of that. But I notice a response written by Dinesh D'Souza in his wonderful and scholarly work called What's So Great About Christianity, when he asked this question: how then are we to have salvation? For most religions, man must take the active role. Hinduism and Buddhism offer solutions that are remarkably similar. Through meditation, we confront our selfish desires and recognize that the self is the core of the problem. So we strive in various ways to eliminate this self and achieve its extinction. In effect, we seek to become nothing. We can advance toward this goal not merely through meditation, but also through disciplined self-renunciation. Renunciation of possessions, renunciation of sensual pleasure, and so on. This is a supremely difficult project. Among Buddhists, only the monks claim to even approach nirvana. Who are the monks? You've seen the pictures of the monks in the Far East. You have people who separate themselves for a lifetime to follow the paths. And actually, Buddhism teaches you're probably not going to achieve nirvana or full enlightenment in this lifetime. It probably will take several. And so the idea that anyone could actually achieve in a very real and practical day-to-day way what Buddhism offers, well, that's another story. And D'Souza says, I believe the awareness of the chasm separating holiness from human weakness has produced in Hindu and Buddhist cultures their distinctive fatalism. Again, we'll talk to that next week. My friend Dan Scott, a marvelous Christian scholar, wrote, Buddhists view the founder of their faith as a model of enlightenment. They honor him as a great teacher. Nothing prohibits a Christian from viewing the Buddha in this way as well. And I think there's much to commend most religions when they're followed religiously, or faith views when someone is a sincere follower of that faith view. However, I said all of that to say this. These faith views or religions ultimately lead us to the same reality. And it's this. Hard as we try to keep the rules and follow the paths and do the disciplines, we all end up at the same exact place. See, the value of religion is what Paul said in Romans 3. He said, the purpose of the law is to make me conscious of sin. The fact that a religion tells someone what's right or wrong is a good starting place. But the starting place does not offer me the solution to the problem. Most human beings have ingrained in them a basic sense of morality. The question is not whether or not we know what's right or wrong. We know what's right or wrong. The question is, can we do what's right? And the answer is no.